Hey, what is going on, guys? It's Young here, and today I'm back in our Fortnite video. And in today's video, I want to show you guys some very good settings for you guys to use who play on console, or if you play on PC or higher FPS. I want to show you guys some very good settings as well, because I know a lot of you guys in my comment section say you play on console, and playing on 60 FPS is completely different than playing on 240 or even 144 FPS. The responsiveness is completely different, so you would probably want to use a little bit different settings. So I want to show you guys some very good settings to use if you play on lower FPS, why I would recommend those settings, and also if you guys play on higher FPS, and just some settings for you guys as well. So definitely stay to the end of the video because I have a ton of very good settings for you guys to try out. And real quick, before we get into the video, I'm going to be giving away 2,000 V-Bucks every single week. And if you guys want a chance to enter this giveaway and win some free V-Bucks, all you guys have to do to enter that giveaway is to drop a like on this video. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you guys do turn on those post notifications so you guys get notified for every single new video. And lastly, comment down below either your Xbox gamer tag, your PSN gamer tag, or Epic account, and you guys will be automatically entered into the next giveaway. And also, if you guys like to support me in the item shop, all you guys have to do is go down to the bottom, click on support a creator, type in my code. My creator code is Young Humor, and you guys will have me added and supported as a creator. And alright guys, let's get right to the video. Alright, so here in this video, I wanted to show you guys some very good settings to use if you guys play on a little bit lower FPS, so maybe you guys play on console, because there is a big difference, because when it comes to different FPS, it feels a lot different as far as the responsiveness. Of course, you have more input delay on console as well, so there's going to be some changes that you'd want to make to your sensitivity. So I kept that in mind, and I had some sensitivity that I really liked on 60 FPS. Now, of course, when you're watching this, the max resolution you can see is 1080p and 60 FPS. So even though I lowered my settings, it looks exactly the same for you. But for me, it felt completely different. Everything felt a little bit more delayed. Everything wasn't as smooth as it once was. And so, like I said, FPS makes a huge difference on your game. When you have a higher FPS, everything feels, it's kind of hard to really explain exactly how it feels unless you feel it for yourself, but it really does feel a lot more smooth, a lot more responsive, and you just honestly feel like you have a lot more control, even though when you turn left to right, it's the exact same speed, but you're just able to process and just have a lot more control because you can really make precise movements a lot easier on higher FPS than opposed to lower FPS. And for myself, I do play on 240 FPS, and if you guys play on 144, which I'm probably, for most of you guys who play on PC probably do, because 240 Hz monitors are pretty expensive, but honestly, when I went from 144 to 240, I didn't change my settings. I used the exact same settings because there really isn't a huge difference. I still notice it, but there's not like a huge difference in which I changed my settings, but for those guys who play on console, I definitely would. So here are the settings that I would recommend for those of you guys who play on lower FPS, because it really does, like I said, make a huge difference on your game. So I have a 1.9 building, a 2.0 editing. My X and Y sensitivity is both on 45%, and then going down to my ADS sensitivity, it is on 10% on both. So these are the settings that I have, and I would recommend for those guys who play on lower FPS, maybe 60, or even if you have like a 75 Hz monitor and you play PC, still I would probably recommend these settings. And like I mentioned before, it really is hard to explain for those of you guys who never played higher FPS what it feels like. People just say it's like completely overpowered, but it's really hard to explain. But honestly, when it comes to lower FPS, the lower sensitivities I play, and the higher FPS that I play on, the higher sensitivity that I have, because when you're on higher settings, like I mentioned before, you do have a lot more control, meaning that when you're moving left to right, when you're aiming around, you will have a lot more control, meaning that you can control higher sensitivities better on higher frames than you would on lower frames. So when you're playing on lower frames, you probably want to have a lower sensitivity. Of course, there's still a lot of really good players that play on high sensitivity on 60 FPS, but for the majority of people, it's definitely a lot harder to control, meaning that your best bet if you want to hit a lot more shots, be a lot more consistent, is to play on a lower settings and sensitivity. And when it came to my building sensitivity on my regular, when I play 240 FPS, I do have a 1.9, which is the exact same, because I wouldn't recommend going anything below that. I mean, you can try maybe a 1.8, but honestly, I feel like 1.9 is that sweet spot. It's not too fast, but also at the same time, it's not ridiculously slow. You're still able to build pretty quickly, as you can see. You can still definitely do high ground retakes pretty easily on 1.9 building sensitivity, and I have a 2.0 on my editing, which is a little bit lower than I normally play on when it comes to my 240 FPS settings. So these are the settings that I would highly recommend for you guys to try out, at least if you guys play on 60 FPS. So I guess the general rule of thumb is when you play on lower FPS, you tend to want to play on lower sensitivities, because everything is a little bit harder to control on lower FPS than higher settings. So the next thing I want to show you guys is going to be my 240, and these are the regular settings that I use for my public match games. If you guys don't know the settings I'm currently using, these are going to be it right here. So going into the settings, as far as my building on a 1.9, my editing is going on a 2.1, my X and Y sensitivity is both on 48%, and then going down to my aiming down sight sensitivity, I do play between like a 12 and 14. You know, I really do like both. I like 14, I like 13, I kind of like 12, so I kind of bounce in between depending on how I feel. And even with the settings, even if you guys do play on 60 FPS, these settings I have currently, even for 240, are very, very good. They're not crazy fast. I'm not playing on like a 60 or anything like that. And a lot of you guys from my settings videos said you really, really like the settings that I have. So if you guys do like this current settings that that I had the 48% on both, then definitely still use the settings that you like. But I thought I would give you guys some very good recommendations if you played on lower FPS, because a lot of you guys do comment all the time that you play on console and that you really want to see settings for people who play on console versus PC, because the FPS makes a little bit of a difference. And also another thing to keep in mind as well that can affect everything as far as your sensitivity could be a elevated analog stick, because if you have an elevated right analog stick, for those guys who have control freaks, or maybe a pro controller with an elevated analog stick, that's going to affect your aim as well, because when you do have that, same with higher FPS, it gives you more control over your movement, meaning that you're able to have a higher sensitivity and control it a lot better. So for instance, right, if I play on like a 46% with a regular analog stick, and then I finally get a control freak, or if I could just get a raised analog stick, I could probably play on a 49% or even 50% just as good as a 46. And honestly, maybe the settings probably feel the same, just because when you have an elevated analog stick, it takes more time to move it all the way over, which gives you a lot better precision when you are moving left to right. So of course, when it comes to your settings, there is a lot of different factors to keep in mind. So I really wanted to make this video to show you guys, or really explain how I choose the settings and what I would recommend for you guys who may be playing a little bit lower. So if you guys have a regular analog stick and you guys play on 60 FPS, the first set of settings I would highly recommend for you guys. And of course, everyone has their different preferences. I made a video I think it was about a week ago, where I show you guys really good settings for building very smooth, and also very, very good settings for building fast. Because a lot of you guys have very different play styles. Like for myself, I tend to play a little bit more aggressive, but I feel like the settings that I have are going to be good for those type of players who like a little bit of both. So people who like to build pretty quickly and maybe also a little bit smoothly, but you're really looking for some good medium settings. Because I've seen a lot of people who have settings videos, a lot of them tend to focus on one aspect. So one type of settings is very, very good for aiming. One type of settings is very, very good for building. But I feel like the settings I provide for you guys are really good for like a happy medium. So it's not extremely, fast building. It's not extremely smooth building. And as far as the aim, it's not too crazy to control, but also at the same time, it's not like a really high sensitivity that you would use for box fights and flick shots. So I feel like the settings that I'm giving you guys and recommending are some very good settings that most of you players probably could get used to very easily. And the last thing I want to talk about is a recommendation that I give to a lot of players who feel like their aim isn't good, or they feel like they're missing a lot of shots. I really do recommend, I think a good rule of thumb is, if your aim is pretty off, if you feel like you're not hitting your shots at all, I highly recommend turning down your sensitivity. That's always going to be the best option, because when it comes to changing your sensitivity, when you actually raise your sensitivity, I believe it takes a lot longer to get used to, because you basically have to get used to moving a lot faster. But when you lower your sensitivity, it gives you a lot more control. Even though you might be a little bit slower turning, it gives you a lot more control over your movement, meaning that it's going to be easier to get used to sensitivities that are lower as opposed to higher sensitivities. So that would just be my recommendation for you guys who are maybe looking for some new settings. You can't really decide what you like. Maybe you find something you like, but you maybe feel like it's a little bit just too fast for you. I would highly recommend turning down your settings. That's always a good rule of thumb to help you guys aim a lot better and really edit a lot better, build a lot better, and everything in between. So with that being said, that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you guys found it very helpful, make sure you guys do drop a like. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you guys do turn on those post notifications so you guys get notified for every single new video. And as well, I've mentioned this in a lot of my videos, I do stream every single day here on this channel at 5:45, sometimes 6 Eastern Standard Time every single day on this channel. So if you guys haven't seen my live streams, definitely come through, put on those post notifications. I stream every single day. So if you guys are looking for some live streams where I just talk about whatever, play Fortnite, definitely come by my live streams. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And alright guys, I'll see you next video.